morning, everyone. It is a cool Sunday morning, so I've taken the opportunity to start the oven because today I'm going to make roasted tomato and basil soup. So what I've done is cored and cut up the tomatoes into chunks, skin on. I've cleaned up some cloves of garlic, probably about 10 or 12 cloves of garlic, and those I'm going to roast in the oven for an hour at 400 degrees. In the meantime, I am going to brown, I have about 5 to 6 large onions in butter. I'll take you along for that, but right now I have to finish putting the tomatoes on the trays. I'm gonna put some olive oil on them and then pop them in the oven for an hour. I should take a moment to mention that I've never roasted the tomatoes before when I've made this soup. I've always just used them fresh and put them in the caramelized onions fresh. So this will be interesting. I'm also worried that they might produce so much liquid that those pans overflow. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. While we wait for the tomatoes and the garlic to roast, I am going to dice up my onions. I also harvested a nice bunch of basil, which gets added last. And then we use the immersion blender to blend it all together and add a few more spices to the mix. I make myself chuckle sometimes because when I use a recipe that I like, that we really enjoy, I write it down or I print it out and I put it in my recipe book. So here's my tomato soup recipe, and this is what it consists of. It says tomato soup. Lots of tomatoes. Who knows? Skin on. 4 to 6 onions, half a pound to 3/4 of a pound of butter, lots of garlic. Again, there's no measurement, Katrina. Basil, no measurement. Bay leaves, no measurement. Celery, salt, and chili peppers. So that's what we're putting in today. I just have to figure out how much of each. And then I'm going to write it down for next year. So anyways, to start, I'm going to melt 3/4 of a cup of butter. I know it is a lot. I agree with you, but it's really good. So, and it's split between a large volume, so whatever. To start, we have to melt our butter, and I have written down a half a pound to 3/4 of a pound. So I'm gonna start with a half a pound and go from there. So 1 stick is a pound, and this is about half a pound. I know it's a lot, but it makes it taste so delicious. This is what we need to caramelize the onions. So we are going to caramelize these onions. We're gonna cook them low and slow until they're nice and brown, and then we're gonna turn the heat off under them, and we're gonna wait for our tomatoes to finish roasting, and then we're going to add it all together in a larger pot, add the other spices, and let the flavors kind of cook together, and then we'll immersion blend it. Okay, as you can see, I wasn't able to get my onions, caramelized or brown, but that's okay because they're nice and softened. So now what I'm going to do is add in the tomatoes, the roasted tomatoes, to the pot. But first, I extracted this much liquid so my pans didn't boil over. So I'm gonna add that first because I don't want to lose that flavor. Got a fresh loaf of bread in the bread maker, so I feel like some grilled cheese and tomato soup is in order. It's only 13 degrees Celsius here today with a really nice breeze, so soup and sandwich would not be out of the question. Now we're going to add 2 teaspoons of celery salt, a teaspoon of crushed cayenne pepper flakes, a heaping teaspoon. I really like the flavor of bay leaves, but I always struggle trying to find them. Last time I used a little string and I tied them to the handle, but I think I'll just be brave again today and add 1, 2, 3. I always leave myself a note after I put the bay leaves in beside the pot, 3 bay leaves before, so that I don't immersion blend them in because they are very woody. We're just gonna let this simmer for about an hour, let all those flavors combine. We're going to extract our bay leaves and blend it up. The tomatoes have been simmering now for about an hour, and I chopped up about 2 cups of basil. So I'm going to add that now, and then I'm just going to kind of let that wilt. I put the basil in and let it simmer for about 5 more minutes, and I also extracted all 3 bay leaves, which is always a good time. And now I'm just going to use the immersion blender to blend this up. Last time I made this, I didn't remove the seeds. I just left it in the soup. They don't bother me one bit, or Brian, but this time I might just do like a sample to see if I can remove the seeds easily, and if that's the case, then I will. All right, let's have a taste. Now, I should have showed you a closer look of what it looked like before I blended it. If you wanted to remove the skins before cooking the tomatoes, I think that you could eat this. Well, you definitely could eat this without using the immersion blender. I just like it better this way. One of the other things that I've seen people add is like heavy cream, but with the amount of butter that we use, it gives it a really silky taste anyways. So I don't add any cream, but let's just see. Holy. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Now I want to grow more tomatoes. I have a lot more tomatoes, I think, because I bet if I have time, I will make another batch of this and freeze it. This is so good. And honestly, it's better than mine last year. So I think the trick was roasting the tomatoes. That's one of the only things I really did differently. Holy. Yeah, I just put my spoon back in the thing. It's all for me. Don't worry. I'm not going to share. Oh my gosh. That was hot. But if you have never tried homemade tomato soup, it is not hard. It is so tasty, and you will never buy Campbell's soup again. Sorry, Campbell's. You might not buy Campbell's soup again. That is so good. One of the things about this recipe is that I can't can it in any way, water bath or pressure can, because it has dairy products in it. So for this soup in particular, what I do is I save cottage cheese, yogurt containers, and things like that, and then I freeze it in these containers. And the nice thing about these is that they fit really nicely on our upright freezer that we purchased last year on the door. So they don't really take up a ton of space, but I am telling you, if you didn't grow your own and you can get your hands on some tomatoes and some basil right now, make this soup. Okay, folks. If you have never tried making your own homemade tomato soup, please try to make this recipe. Make a smaller batch than I did. I just make a lot so it lasts me the year or even longer, because next year, hopefully we're going to be traveling, so I'll have a stockpile. Thank you so much for watching. Happy harvest season. We'll see you next time. I need to edit this video because I ate my soup. I love my soup. However, I just wanted to see what it would be like if I used my food mill to strain the seeds. And so although I prefer a more like a thicker soup, I really like the way this is turning out. Wait till you see the color. It's incredible. So I think I'm going to food mill, maybe half and half. We'll see. But anyways, I'll show you what I'm doing here if you're don't know what a food mill is. So a food mill is a tool, and this is really old. Like my mom used to use these to make applesauce, but you put the cooked food or the food that you want kind of strained in here, and then you just turn the handle, and then this little device pushes, I don't want to make a mess, pushes the liquid out the bottom and strains the bit. And then you have kind of the leftover soup. So I'm just going to mix this, but look at the color of that. It's so pretty and it tastes so good. So anyways, that's the edit. I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.